Hello, I3 Committee. My name is AMason, and I'm a senior in the psychology department here at UC. This project I am submitting to the I3 competition. I have also presented at the URDC Undergraduate Research Day. So this experiment was conducted to determine if there was an influence in whether male opinions have any effect on outness or sexuality. I think that there is a true need for this kind of research because here in the Appalachian region in West Virginia and surrounding states, there's not much emphasis on sexuality and things of that nature, and I think it's kind of a taboo topic to talk about, and especially like to bring it into academia and research, it is definitely not as common as something like terror management theory or anxiety or things like that. So I think this is definitely an innovative project to do. And it definitely tests something that people are a little bit uncomfortable with, and you'll see kind of some of the perils of that when I go over my results later on. So for some of my background information when I was researching this topic, I found that homosexuality was actually considered a mental disorder in the 1970s and 80s within the DSM-5, which is a diagnostic principle for psychologists to use and psychiatrists to use to diagnose people with various mental disorders. So in past recent years, LGBTQ identification has actually increased from 3.2% in 2012 to 8.7% in 2021. This is done by the National Social Survey, and I believe that people aren't just now becoming gay, and that's why that this survey in numbers has increased in identification within the LGBTQ community. I believe that it's more of a fact that people are now more comfortable with being gay and being themselves because of media and just how the times are changing, which is definitely a positive. But however, I'm going to be talking about outness in this study, and it's one of my variables, and that outness in this study refers to the openness about one's sexuality and sexual orientation. And outness is actually a really good predictor of mental health and well-being. And to go into that, so I wanted to focus this project on the way that men influence those who are bisexual, and at first I wanted to do this just on females. However, being at a small institution as UC, it was kind of hard to be able to find that many participants to just be able to limit it to females. So I did have to include males also in this study. But De Caputa said that there has been negative mental effects at the hands of men on women who are bisexual. So some of the experiences that are found in De Caputa's study were that women are often hypersexualized by the men in their lives and men around them. Men will request threesomes of them. They will be more perceived as promiscuous and cheaters and liars, and if they're bisexual, and other invasive questionings that men will place on these women. So instead of just being free and being out with their sexuality, women will actually hide themselves and be in the closet, as we say, about their sexuality, just to avoid these hypersexualizations and these invasive questions from men. And through coming out, Morris found that the more that people come out and they're feeling free to express themselves and free to share their true identity with others, they actually have a very positive increase in mental health. So just to go over my hypothesis, I believe that my experimental hypothesis is that individuals will rate lower on the outness scale than when presented in the conditions where negative opinions from men about bisexuality are presented. And the null hypothesis is the complete opposite, that the conditions portraying negative or positive male attitudes about bisexuality will have no effect on the outness scale or anything of that nature. So for my methodology, I convenience sampled people from my class that I TA for lifespan development and other various psychology classes, and they were offered 5 extra credit points for each senior study that they attended. And They were then, after being convenience sampled, they were randomly assigned into one of 3 conditions, and the conditions are the video presentations that I showed them about the male negative attitudes, positive attitudes, or neutral, and a completely unrelated topic. So the positive video was a video of 2 male Confederate actors discussing bisexual women in a positive manner with acceptance, and the complete opposite in the negative video, 2 male Confederate actors discussing bisexual women in a negative manner with harsh judgment. And then the neutral video was a completely unrelated topic and just was the 2 Confederate actors discussing about bare facts. Before they were shown these videos, however, they were given the informed consent sheets to sign, and they were given the option to make a copy of these and take them with them. And then I showed them their respective video. After the videos, they completed 3 different scales: the Storm's sexual orientation scale, the outness inventory, and then also the sexuality scale that I created just to assess opinions on sexuality, which I did not end up using the scale that I created because it did not have any validity or reliability, because I'm a student, I created it, and there was just no way of saying that scale would be accurate. But I did just do it just to get some practice. And then after they were shown these videos, did all 3 of their questionnaires, and they were then debriefed and told the true nature of the study, and then they were free to go. So for my conclusions of this study, the results were very skewed by social desirability, and that was one of the limitations that I outlined in this poster presentation, that social desirability was a huge limitation because people, I believe, were coming in and they weren't really wanting to be there. And once I told them this study was about sexuality, they might have been had a little bit of anxiety about it. They didn't want me to know this personal information, even though I told them it would be all confidential. I actually also had 2 people walk out of my study and said that they did not want to participate once they came in and they found out that it was about sexuality. And that is kind of telling about like the negative effects and the just progress that we still need to be made about sexuality in America and the acceptance and openness about it. If there's 2 people walking out, that tells a lot in itself. I only did find significance in condition and sex played a part in affecting the outness scale, and that was only on 2 items, and it was questions about whether you would tell your mother or whether you would tell your siblings more about your sexuality. And that does make sense. If it were me personally, I would probably tell my mom and I would tell my siblings about my sexuality before I would tell anyone else in my life. So that does make a lot of sense. In my study, I ended up having 33 participants, and the 2 that I had to exclude because they walked out. And if I had longer time to do this, I would think that I would yield a lot better results just because of social desirability, and I would be able to run multiple studies and be able to exclude the research and the data where it was clear that people were acting social desirable or they did not want to do it, so they just marked 5 for all the answers or whatever the reasoning was. However, this was a really fun study to conduct, and I'm super excited to be presenting it to the I3 committee and being able to present it at URDC, and I hope to continue research like this in the future. But yeah, thank you for watching.